Meet me in Genesis chapter 3, verse 10 through 13. And then meet me in the 4th chapter of Genesis, verses 8 through 10. And then Exodus chapter 20, verse 5. So let's start with Genesis chapter 3, verse 10. Now, if you're having trouble finding the book of Genesis, you need to be in church as much as possible. You need to be at Sunday school, BTU, Wednesday night Bible studies, Sunday morning. You need to be in everything the church has to offer if you're having a hard time finding the book of Genesis. And in case you're looking for the book of Exodus, it's right next door. Amen. Genesis chapter 3, verse 10 through 13, and it reads like this. And he said, I heard the sound of you in the garden. I'm reading the English Standard Version, by the way. I heard the sound of you in the garden, and I was afraid because I was naked and hid myself. He said, who told you that you were naked? Have you eaten from the tree of which I commanded you not to eat? The man said, the woman whom you gave to be with me, she gave me fruit of the tree, and I ate. Then the Lord said to the woman, what is this that you have done? The woman said, the serpent deceived me, and I ate. Let's go over to chapter 4, verse 8 through 10. Chapter 4, verse 8 through 10. It reads, Cain spoke to Abel, his brother, and when they were in the field, Cain rose up against his brother Abel and killed him. Then the Lord said to Cain, where is Abel, your brother? He said, I don't know. Am I my brother's keeper? And the Lord said, what have you done? The voice of your brother's blood is crying to me from the ground. Skip over to Exodus chapter 20, verse 5. I know you probably wonder, how is any of this connected? Exodus chapter 20, verse 5. It says, you shall not bow down to them or worship them, for I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God, punishing the children of the sin of the parents to the 3rd and 4th generation of those who hate me. Punishing the children of the sin of the parents to the 3rd and 4th generation. Look at your neighbor, say neighbor. Neighbor. What's in your genes? What's in your genes? G-E-N-E-S. You ask him the other way, you are out of order and out of line. Amen. 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 It has become fairly popular today for people to look to genealogy companies like Ancestry.com and so many more for answers concerning their heritage and lineage. Those seeking historical information on their pedigree employ genealogists to preserve their past for the sake of their future. Genealogists use oral interviews, historical records, genetic analysis, and other information about a family to reveal kinship and relationship. Traditionally, genealogy began with a person who was deceased, therefore tracing his descendants forward. However, family history is the complete opposite, tracing the lineage backwards, starting with a living person. People have spent hundreds and sometimes even thousands of dollars on their genealogy just to find out where they came from, what's in their family line. And one thing has been clear: if you want to know who you are, learn where you come from. If you want to know why you are the way you are, study who you came from. What if we did a spiritual genealogy study on ourselves? I can't help but wonder, what spirits would we find in our families? What habits would those spirits explain? Have we punished our kids for the demons we gave them? Have we punished our children for the habits they genetically pulled in from us? Have we put our kids on punishment because they act just like us? Can who we come from explain who we really are? What about your genetics, your spiritual genetics? What about your spiritual DNA, your spiritual makeup? If we can trace our genetic and spiritual DNA, then certainly there are some spirits within us and habits within us that we can trace back to old Uncle Ed and Aunt Sally and Grandmama and we ought to be able to trace those things back, because if you understood who they were, it would sure enough explain who you are. This series of sermons is aimed to do just that. Spirits don't die with the person. They only travel from one person or one generation at a time. In other words, when a spirit gets into a person, when the person dies, the spirit keeps moving. Because the spirit knows that it is illegal to exist on this earth without a body. And watch this now, it travels usually to the next generation. Why would they do that? I'll tell you why. Because they prefer to stay in the same family because of the same weaknesses. Let me make sense for you. Usually, when a spirit of any kind, good or bad, enters into a person, it comes in by way of permission of that person. What you must understand is that can no spirit, good or bad, right or wrong, take any control over you without your permission. Usually that happens through unprocessed pain. When we hurt, we open the door for demonic trafficking if we don't process our pain. That's why two different people can go through the same thing and come out two different ways. Because you went through it one way and you went through it another way, and if you don't process your pain correctly, you subject yourselves to spiritual activity. Let me give you an example. If you've been molested as a child and you don't go through therapy, you don't go through counseling, you don't get that thing fixed, then you open the anger, the lack of trust opens yourself up for demonic activity, and when that happens, you pass those things on to the following generation. I'm trying to teach. Hope y'all listening. You must understand that spirits like to stay within the family.
That's right.
Because usually everybody in the family has the same weakness.
Wow.
And they prefer to stay there, which causes these cycles. Yeah. It gives birth to these cycles, these habits that continue to form. See, cycles come by way of a spirit. And when spirits enter into a person, it gives birth to certain habits and behaviors. And out from that becomes a spiritually genetic cycle. If you think about it, you ain't the first alcoholic in your family. You think about it, you ain't the first one to be promiscuous in your family. I'm gonna try to keep this thing rated PG, but you ain't the first one. You ain't the first one. You ain't the only one that never graduated high school. This is a cycle that is continuing. And here's the sad part. Usually, when we give birth to our offspring, we discover that anything we can do, they can do better. You ever wonder, they'll look at your kids and discover they are smarter than you were at their age, than you were at that age. They're a whole lot smarter. But here's the other thing, is that also applies to the bad in you. They're better liars than you. And I know some of us grown up, wait a minute, Pastor, they ain't better liars than me because I wrote the book, but you're only speaking from the stuff you caught them in. Because, oh, good God Almighty. Because see, there are some things you ain't caught them in yet, and you don't even know they're playing you. You didn't see this, and what ends up happening, sometimes your kid can get in something, and you be like, oh my God, where did this come up at? That's because they've been playing you all along. What you must understand is that anything you Because the spirit, the longer that cycle dwells within the family, it gets stronger and stronger and stronger. It gets better with every generation. It gets more powerful with every generation. And somebody's got to be willing to break the cycle. Everybody in the family got failed marriages. It's a cycle. Because nobody had a successful marriage in the family. Everybody's got bad education. Because the kids didn't see anybody in their lineage with a college degree. Everybody is addicted to something in the family. Because addictions have been running through the family for generations and generations. Poverty has been running through that family for generations and generations. Bad parenting has been running through the family for generations and generations. Then there are those who are attention seekers. They always got to have attention. They will do anything for attention. It's been going on in your family for years. Great-grandmama did everything to get attention. Grandmama did everything. Mama did. Now the child will do everything to get attention. I want you to understand that the cycle continues. Why? Because it's in your genes. It's in your genes. It's in your genes. It's in your genes. It's in your genetic makeup. It's in your spiritual DNA. Everything you got, you inherited from your mama, your daddy. That's why you got to be careful who you make a baby with. It's amazing me because you got to be careful because just because they got good credit don't mean they got good genes. Preaching out the genes up in here. Just because they cute don't mean they got good genes. And so many of us, we look at how they look and we look at how much money they got, but they got demons traveling through their family, and you laid down with a cute devil. Said you laid down with a cute devil. Yeah. You laid down with a pretty, drop dead gorgeous demon. Then you start looking at your kids, talking, where did this mess come up at? That's why you can't let everybody in your house. Because when you come in my house, your genes come in my house, your spirit come in. You ever look at your kids, where you get this mess from? That's because you got to be careful. I want you to understand that spirits are so easily transferred. Because you can date a person and then go out to six flags with your kids. But because you dating this person, y'all are already swapping spirits. And when you do that, you bring them same spirits into your house and they transfer to your kids. And then you're trying to figure out what does this mess come up at. It's because it's in the gene. Some of us, if we want to be honest with ourselves, the stuff that our kids do, you've been doing. You did it. You did it. You did it. Before you punish him, you need to start thinking about the fact that you give it to him. It's in your genes. And our feature text for today invites our attention to the iconic story of the Addams family, where all cycles begin. See, I hope to convey and connect the verse in Exodus with the story of Adam's family in Genesis. We need to see the cycle in the first family to understand the cycles within our families. If we aren't careful, we will misinterpret the verse in Exodus as though God is punishing the children for the sins of the fathers. However, God is punishing the children because the cycle of the sin continues with the kids. Well, Pastor, it don't have to necessarily be a cycle. It could just be bad choices. You must understand that bad choices are made because of what's in the cycle. If I'm an alcoholic, and my uncles and my father and my mother and all those were alcoholics, then I chose alcohol because it was already in me. That's why the Bible says we were born in sin and shapen in iniquity. You got it from your mama. Come on, man. Come on. You got it from your daddy. It's in your genes. You wouldn't have than the first family. All throughout Scripture, there are cycles of blessings, and then there are cycles of curses. There are cycles of habits, good habits. There are cycles of bad habits. Now, I don't know. Some cycles began because of a generational curse, a generational blessing. Some cycles began because of just bad choices. All I know is that the cycle is going, and if somebody don't stop it, it's going to keep going and get bigger and stronger. There's all sorts of scriptural references about the cycles that begin. There's the seed of Abraham, where God blessed Abraham and his entire seed was blessed. There was a cycle of blessings. There was the seed of David. You remember David. David was the king of Israel, but he also made the tragic mistake of sleeping with somebody's wife and tried to hide it and cover it up. And so his son now becomes his son Amnon commits incest, rapes his sister. I want you to understand it's in his genes. It's in his genes. And I want you to understand, if you look at all the good and bad in you, I promise you will discover that 90% of your habits are formed because they are in your genes. They're in your genes. They're in your genes. So the question is, Pastor, what's in my genes? What's in your genes? What's in your genes? I'll tell you what's in your genes. Genesis chapter 3, verse 15 tells us that there's good in our genes. There's good in our genes. Look at verse 15. You'll see the good in our genes. Now, he says, I will put enmity between you and the woman, and between your offspring and her offspring. He shall bruise your head, and you shall bruise his heel. Now, I'm coming back to that. I want you to also see, in verse 11, he said, who told you that you were naked? Have you eaten of the tree of which I commanded you not to eat? Now watch this. If you look at that verse and look at verse 15, you'll discover that they had everything they needed. They had it all. They had it all. Everything God had created, they had it all. They had blessings, they had fruit, they had food, they had animals, they had everything they needed. They were in the perfect situation with God. They were in the perfect situation. He gave them everything. There was no sin, there was no diseases, there was no heartache, there was no reason to get a job. Everything they needed, they already had. Everything they needed, they already had. And so I want you to understand from the jump that in the very beginning, Adam and Eve were richly blessed. They had the presence of God in the cool of the day. They were richly blessed. They had everything. And I think you need to stop just looking at the negative things that travel in your family, but look at some of the good things that travel in your family. You've got some good stuff in your family, some good genes in your family. The reason you got saved is because great-grandmama was a praying woman. The reason you are in church is because great-grandmama made sure you got your behind the church. There's some good genes in your family.
Amen. Amen.
Everything ain't bad.
Amen.
And too often we look at stuff, when we start seeing cycles and stuff like that, we oftentimes look at that and think of only the bad, but there's some good stuff in you. And you need to know about all the blessings. I want you to understand that one of the biggest tricks of the enemy is to convince you that there is no good in you. And that devil is a lie. Adam and Eve had it all. They had everything they needed. They had dominion. He instructed them to cultivate and be productive. Make something out of nothing. When he put them in the garden, he said, go. I put man in the garden that they may keep it, dress it, manage everything God gave you, right? Now, he said, so he gave them instructions to cultivate and be productive, make something of nothing. I think what you must understand that before Adam had a wife, he had a job. He had proven himself to be responsible. And I want you to understand that irresponsible men give birth to irresponsible sons. Oh my God. Men that don't work give birth to sons that don't like to work. That's why before Adam had a woman, he had responsibility. He had taken care. He was a godly man. He had God before he had his wife. And you before he's come get you. He had good in his genes because he had a relationship with God. Good men begin a cycle of good men.
Amen.
You wonder why our sons are the way they are? Look at their fathers. If you find good boys, there's a good man somewhere. After he had his relationship with God, then he had a wife. The first time God said something wasn't good, out of all the things he said, he created the heavens and the earth, and it was good. He created the seas and the land, it was good. He created the animals, it was good. And the first time God said something wasn't good was when he said, it is not good for a man to be alone.
Amen.
And I want you to understand that men make mistakes out of loneliness that they can't explain. Adam did not put in a request for a wife, but God knew it without him even asking. The first time God said something wasn't good was when the man was alone. He said to the rest of the trees, you can eat of this tree, you can eat of all these trees. Do not touch this one. We focus so much on what they couldn't eat that we forget all the good in the fact that they had everything else they could eat. We focus so much on the tree they could not eat from, but there was a whole laundry list of trees they could eat from. Oftentimes we are so ungrateful because we focus on when God says no that we forget about all the things he said yes to. Look at all the yeses God gave you. Yes, you can have the job. Yes, you can get the house. Yes, you can get the car. Yes, you can survive the plane accident. Yes, yes, yes. But the moment God says no, now all of a sudden you want to walk away. He gave you all these trees and you still not satisfied. They had all them trees. They were richly blessed. There was good in their family. But then there was also bad in their family. There was also bad in their family because, look in verse 6. So when the woman saw that the tree was good for food, and that it was a delight to the eyes, and that the tree was to be desired to make one wise, she took of its fruit and ate, and she also gave some to her husband, who was with her, and he ate. Now mind you, they ain't got no business eating off this tree. Well, what if they was hungry? They wasn't hungry because they had all these other trees they could eat from. And then, verse 7, then the eyes of both of them were open, and they knew that they were naked. And they sewed fig leaves together and made themselves loincloths. Somewhere. Now, before they ate, they were blind. You know, because we walk by faith and not by sight. We're never intended to see. Before they ate, they were naked and unashamed. They didn't know to die. Now, with that being said, how do I say this? They desire to be like a God, but wasn't enough to be like the God. They had a desire to be like a God, but there wasn't enough. It wasn't enough for them, so they wanted to be like the God. What do you mean by that? So that the tree of knowledge and of good and evil was the tree that they could not eat from. And the reason they couldn't eat of it was because they were being like gods, knowing good and evil. So if they didn't eat from that tree, they wouldn't know what good and evil was all about. All they ever knew was good. Until they eat from this tree, and now you know stuff you ain't got no business knowing. Somebody had a question. What's the question? Can people change so that the cycles can be broke from generations to come? Absolutely. That is the whole point I did this series. That's the whole point why I'm teaching this series. Is by the end of this series of sermons, you will know exactly what to do on breaking cycles that have been running through your family. As a matter of fact, let me give you a sneak peek into next week's message. It's entitled, Everything Must Go. I'll tell you about it next week, but yes, that you can do that. Now, with that being said, if you look in verse 5, for God knows that when you eat of it, your eyes will be open, and you like God, knowing good and evil. Which tells me why she ate. Now, knowledge of good and evil. What you must understand, evil has been here. It was here when they got here, but they never knew it existed because they hadn't ate from the tree that gives them knowledge of good and evil. Now, they did not, until they, up until the point where they ate of that tree, they didn't even know evil existed. That begs the question, well, Pastor, where did evil come from? God created evil. Wait a minute, Pastor, hold up. You trying to tell me God created evil? Yes. If you turn into Isaiah 45:7, just put your finger there at some point today, you'll discover that God created evil. Now, with that being said, he created something we wasn't even supposed to know about. But we ate of the tree. So that begs the question, Pastor, why did she eat from the tree? She wasn't hungry. I'll tell you why. The answer is in verse 5 when he says, for God knows that when you eat of it, your eyes will be open and you will be like God, knowing good and evil. She ate from the tree because she was nosy. I ain't saying women today are nosy. I'm just saying some people can be nosy. All the time. All the time. Do you hear me? And see, here's the problem. A lot of us, we get into trouble because we want to know everything. Jeez. I want you to understand there is a blessing in ignorance. And I've been pastoring long enough that I want to tell someone, listen, I don't want to know nothing about that. I don't want to know nothing about that. Look, y'all listen. Sometimes you got to learn to tell folks that's your problem and you need to go deal with it. Don't call me with that food. Especially when you got your own problems, you ain't got time to deal with everybody else's. But see, the problem we run into is we want all the knowledge. That's why we live on Facebook. Can't get off of it. We don't know who did it, what they did, where they was at. Baby, mind your business. The first sin that we ever committed was because we was nosy. Got to know everything. Some stuff just ain't none of your business. And watch this. Here's what's worse. We try to know everything and then go fix everybody's stuff. Oh my God. I mean, try to go fix people's stuff. God ain't called you to fix everybody's problem. There it is, Mom. Preach right there. How you gonna fix mine and you ain't fix yours? You know, some of the messiest folks in the world got the worst mess at home, but they always got a word for your house. And being nosy is what got us in this predicament in the first place. She wasn't hungry, she was nosy. So nosy, she ran and shared what she got. She had it all. And I ain't saying you can't keep a woman happy. But I'm just saying she had it all and she still wasn't happy. She had it all and still had to go know what she wasn't supposed to know. There are some things God don't want you to know. And you'll be able to be all right with not knowing. Because look at everything that's going to happen since you know. Now she see, because, ooh, come on, man. You mean if I eat this tree, I can see all of it? I can know all of it? And some of us just, we can't pass it. We can't resist. Girl, what happened? I mean, can't even resist. You know it's juicy. And you, girl, what happened? When was the last time you said, I don't hear that? Because watch this. Now you are responsible for what got to. But the serpent has convinced her in verse 6. He says, so when the woman saw that the tree was good for food, and that it was a delight to the eyes, and that the tree was to be desired to make one wise, she took of the fruit. So she ate. The text, verse 6 says, she saw that it was good, and then she ate. But wait a minute, Pastor, she can't see. So what do you mean she saw? If she can't see, then when the text says she saw, the word see in the Hebrew in this text means to understand. She understood, meaning she had been convinced. See, when the enemy wants to deceive you, he uses a bit of what you do know and entices you with what you don't know, and knowing that you desire to know what you ain't supposed to know. Now, she understood. The word in the text is see, but it is translated understand in the Hebrew. Why is that important? Because we were never intended to lean on our own understanding. They were only designed to operate on God's permission and God's instruction. Everything they had, God gave them. Every step they took, God took them. Everything they used, God gave them. They were never intended to operate on their own understanding. But this is what we miss up there. Because we didn't figure God out. That's where we make our mistakes. Think we got it. Well, okay. And let me play devil's advocate for a minute. She felt like the enemy convinced her. Listen, the only reason the Lord don't want you to eat from this tree, because you'll be like him, knowing good and evil. And he just don't want you to be like him. And she like, but God wants me to be like him. He played her. He played her. God wants me to be like him. So now why is this important? Because it said it was pleasant to the eyes. Now if you look at that text in verse 6, I'm going to show you something. It says it was pleasant to the eyes. It was pleasant to the eyes. She saw it because she understood it. But it was pleasing to her. It was pleasure. Most of our sins are committed for a thirst of knowledge or a thirst of pleasure. Most of our sins are committed because of a thirst for knowledge or a thirst for pleasure. And when she got satisfied, she ate it and then gave it to her husband. Nothing happened in the earth until Adam ate it. Now, she messed up, but God didn't move until he ate it. Nothing happened until he ate it, because he never gave the command to Eve. He gave the command to the man. What we must understand is that men have to stand for God no matter what that woman says. Adam made his mistake. He betrayed his God for the love of his girl. There's something dangerous in every sense then. We've been giving birth, men have been giving birth to sons who are henpecked. They call it old days. They'll betray God. Because when a man loves a woman, I'm telling you right now, it made him and what he made such a mistake. He knew what God had said, but he decided to go another route. This is flesh of my flesh, bone of my bones. I wonder how many men have made mistakes with women, despite what God said. And I want you to understand that men who don't stand for God give birth to little boys that don't stand for God. You can't beat them and tell them to be a man of God, and they keep watching you be a man of the world. Right. It's a cycle that you start. Yes, sir. Now, Adam is walking around, grabs some big leaves, strolling around. And God came out of nowhere. Adam, where are you? He asked the question, Adam, where are you? Now, when God asks a question, it is not because he don't know the answer. What he was asking Adam was to tell Adam where he was. Adam, in other words, do you know where you at? Adam, do you know? He says, Adam comes back with this. Lord, I hid from you. How you gonna hide from the omnipresent God? He's everywhere. You can't hide from somebody that's everywhere. You can't hide from a God that's everywhere. Now watch this. He says, Adam, where are you? Adam, where are you? First thing, when God says, Adam, where are you? It responds to the fact that Adam became absent. I want you to understand that absent men give birth to absent boys. Men that don't know how to be present in God give birth to sons who don't know how to be present in God. They try to hide from God's presence in his own garden. This is the part that messed me up. Because, we live by this statement. When we mess up in our families, what go on in this house stays in this house. And this is the first time where we find it, where we hide what we've done. Don't keep everybody at your business. I don't want nobody to know. So we've been taught from the first family to hide what you did. To hide it. And I'm not saying everybody ought to know your business. But I'm saying you can't deal with something you won't open up. And so what we've done is taught our children, our kids, how to cover up the molestation. Cover up the thieving. Cover up the lying. Covering up. When we keep telling them to hide it, we're teaching them how to lie. Yes, you are. But then you want to punish them for lying to you. But you won't punish them for lying for you. Oh, God. You want to punish them for lying to you, but you won't punish them for lying for you. So you hide it. You keep it. Don't tell nobody that. Not even you, Mom? I can't tell you. When your child tells you something that they've been violated, let them speak. You want to know how you break a cycle? Number one, you stop it from starting. If you teach them to suppress it, then you don't teach them to face it. And if they can't face it, they can't fix it. He didn't do that. We just brushed stuff under the rug. And then wonder why people keep tripping and falling in your house. Because you got so much stuff under the rug. Deal with the mess in your house. Stop telling your kids to not say nothing. They've been hurt, they've been violated, and if you tell them to hide it, then you're telling them to lie about it. But see, the flip side of it is, some of us will hide it from our family, but we'll tell it to the public. Why the whole community got to know about your marriage? Deal with it in your house. And so there's good, there's bad in the family. Then there's ugly in their genes. There's good in their genes, bad in their genes, there's ugly in their genes. And I'm done. Chapter 4, verse 8. You'll see something here. This is Cain and Abel shows up, right? These are the sons of Adam and Eve. Now, they messed up in the garden, committed the first sin of man. And now, all of a sudden, Cain and Abel shows up. And when they get here, what do? Cain kills Abel. It started a cycle of sin. There is ugly in your genes. You don't see the ugly until you see the offspring. You don't see how ugly your genes are until you see the offspring. The proof of the cycle is in the fruit of the behavior. Men that multiply should also be fruitful. God told Adam and Eve, be fruitful and multiply. So they were fruitful and multiplied. And here's the problem with today. We got a lot of people multiplying without being fruitful. They don't have enough fruit to support their multiplication. In other other words, you have the kids, but you can't take care of them. So we got to take care of them. Anyway, moving on. Where did Cain? Cain killed his brother. Where did Cain get murder from? Where did this show up? He got it from his parents. Because the Bible says that if you eat from this tree, you shall surely die. Eve brought to her husband a fruit that would kill him. Murder gave birth, got into their genes, and jealousy got into their genes. Why? Because Cain was jealous of Abel's offering. And so he was, now mind you, Abel did nothing to Cain. He didn't say nothing to him, he didn't mistreat him. He was jealous of what God thought of him. Can I tell you something? There are some people that don't like you because God loves you. So his parents ate the fruit of the jealousy of God. They ate the fruit out of jealousy of God. The first sin committed was in heaven. The second sin committed was down here. Eve killed her and her husband with this fruit. Abel has done nothing to Cain. He was just angry because God liked his blessing. Give your children a chance to break the cycle by telling them what you've done. If Adam and Eve had sat down with Cain and Abel and told them what mistake they made, then they could have stopped the cycle from going. But they never told them anything. And so now, sinful parents have given birth to sinful kids. I want to share something with y'all. Because I'm done. I want to share something with you. Many of you know that I was raised in foster care. And I did something recently I was scared to do. I contacted CPS. And I wanted them to send me the files of my CPS case. I grew up 13 years in foster care. And I want them to send me all the documents, the files, everything they had on my case. And I got the information. And I've been reading it. It's a big old notebook full of stuff. And I've been reading it. And I'm learning about my family that I did not know. A lot of stuff that I read. The story that they gave me was appropriate for a child, for me at 6. But I found out they've been lying to me. I found out more evil in my family than I didn't even know it existed. And I also found out why I made some of the mistakes I made. I grew up in foster care with house parents and makeshift homes and all of that stuff. So everything I grew up into was never real. It was foster. It was house parents. It was made up. It was just an instead situation. So it put in me something that caused me to not trust anything I see, any relationship I have. It taught me that I can't be loved, that it's not real. And watch this, usually people that don't trust have been in a cycle of things that are unreal. So they don't trust anything because the last thing they thought was real turned out to be fake. And so they don't know how to love people. They don't know how to receive love. They don't know how to trust love. And what we do is we end up giving birth to people that do the same thing. I found out, and I don't want to give too much of my family's business because I don't want nobody judging me, but I found out that there was one horrific thing that I found out that crushed me to my core. I found out that my mother was my dad's prostitute. And that I was born out of that improper relationship. I wasn't even supposed to be here. But I was the fruit of their sin. And it made me question, what am I doing here? But what I found out is that although they didn't know what they were doing, God knew what He was doing. everything for me. I decided to be a better father than my father was to me. Here's why. Because I wanted to break the cycle. You've got to break it. You've got to decide. If a bad choice got you into this mess, then a good choice can get you out of this mess. So what I decided is that it stops with me. I decided that I was going to be a better father to my daughters than my dad was to me. I was going to be a better parent than my parents was to me. I graduated high school because neither one of my parents did. I graduated college because neither one of my parents did. And I want you to understand, you ain't got to take what's in your genes. You can change it. And if you, I'm going to give you a good reason to change it. Your kids are a good reason to say, to hell with all of that, to hell with our father, we going to be better and different no matter what my mom did. You got to decide, I want something different. You got to turn to yourself and say, self, it stops with me. It stops here. So what? That's what's been going on. But it stops here. Our marriage don't last no matter what happened before ours. It stops here. You got to decide that it stops with you. We must be redeemed. That's why we got to be redeemed. Because even though there's bad in your genes, if you get redeemed, that's what his blood will do. It'll regene you. You get new genes and new DNA and a new spirit. If any man be in Christ, he's a new creature and all things gonna pass away. You gotta get redeemed. So what? You got bad genes. He got better genes. Father, we thank you for the new genes you gave us. We pray now that you would give someone the courage to come down and break the cycle, break the curse, break the cycle by doing something different and deciding to be better than what they were told, better than what they were shown.